Most men think older women are safer, more mature, more stable, but that belief is exactly what gets them pulled into the game they didn't know they were playing. Because an older woman doesn't chase, she doesn't beg, she doesn't try to impress you with filters and trends. She uses something much stronger: experience. She's seen it all, heard it all, felt it all. And when she walks into a room, she's not looking for attention. She's scanning, calculating, looking for the one man who doesn't fold under pressure, because that's the man she can't control, or the one she most wants to. But most men? They confuse composure with safety. They think calm means kind, silence means soft. What they don't realize is, she's playing chess, and they're still learning checkers. An older woman knows how to read you before you even speak. She picks up on the micro signals, your posture, your hesitation, your eyes. She can spot insecurity faster than a younger woman can spot a brand name. And once she sees it, she knows exactly what role to play. Nurturer, muse, mystery, whatever makes you lower your guard, whatever makes you open the door she wants to walk through. You'll think it's chemistry. You'll think she gets you, that she's different, more grounded, less drama. But underneath that calm exterior is a blueprint. Years of trial and error, decades of mastering influence without needing volume. She won't chase your attention. She'll lure it, slowly, subtly. And by the time you realize how deep you are, you're already reacting to her energy, on her terms. Because an older woman doesn't just enter your life, she inserts herself into your rhythm. Here's what most men never understand. Older women don't need to manipulate directly. They influence. Influence is quieter, slower, more strategic. She plants ideas, seeds, and watches how you water them. She doesn't tell you what to do. She lets you choose, but only from options she already laid out. And because it feels like your decision, you trust it. But it was hers all along. You'll find yourself adjusting, not because she asked, but because you want to keep her energy. You start to speak differently, act differently, think differently, slowly shaping yourself into the man you think she desires. That's the trap. Because the older woman doesn't demand your attention, she rewires how you offer it. And when you start to need her validation, you lose the only thing that made you attractive in the first place: your independence. That's the first layer of the psychology. Not control through pressure, but through permission. If this already feels like truth most men ignore, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. You're not like most men. She'll never raise her voice. She won't start fights. She doesn't need to. Her silence says more than most women's shouting. If she disapproves, you'll feel it. If she pulls away, you'll chase. If she gives less, you'll give more. Because older women master the art of emotional contrast. Hot and cold. Available and distant. Supportive, then quiet. Not to confuse you, but to condition you. She teaches you to crave her attention like a reward, and once it becomes rare, it becomes valuable. You don't realize you're being trained until you catch yourself doing things you wouldn't do for anyone else. She's not toxic in the obvious sense. She doesn't lash out or break things. No, she shapes behavior with subtlety. She uses absence like a weapon, approval like currency. And once you're locked in, the idea of disappointing her starts to feel like failure, even if deep down, you're not sure what you're trying to win anymore. She'll praise your strength in the beginning, your ambition, your presence, your focus. She'll make you feel like a man, like finally, someone sees you, not just as potential, but as power. But here's the twist. Once she knows you're hooked, that praise becomes performance-based. Now you have to earn it, not by being yourself, but by being her version of you. It starts small. Change the way you talk. Change who you spend time with. Change how available you are. She'll never frame it as control. She'll say it's refinement, growth, alignment. And because you crave her approval, you go along with it. And slowly, the man she admired becomes the man she manages. You think you're building something real, but But in reality, you're shrinking, adjusting, playing a role to keep her interest. And the more you mold yourself to her desires, the less of yourself remains. What started as attraction has become submission. And that's exactly where she wanted you. But the real psychology runs deeper. Older women have mastered emotional leverage, not through drama, but through detachment. They don't beg. They don't plead. They withdraw. And that silence hits harder than any argument ever could. When she pulls away, it triggers your fear of loss. Not because of what she gives you, but because of what she withholds. Her validation, her warmth, her attention. You find yourself replaying conversations, wondering what you did wrong, trying harder, being nicer, more available, thinking you're fixing things, when in reality, you're sinking deeper. Because she's not reacting to you, you're reacting to her absence. That's how she keeps control. Not by pushing, by removing. And in doing so, she becomes the source of your emotional balance. You start to depend on her energy to feel grounded. And once you depend on her, you've lost the game. Because now you're not leading, you're following. That's the power dynamic most men never see coming. She doesn't lead with dominance. She leads with distance, with subtle emotional tests, with moments that feel like you failed, but you're not sure why. You'll find yourself apologizing for things you didn't do, trying to decode her silences, overthinking every pause, every look, every shift in tone. Not because she's cruel, but because she's calculated. And here's what's dangerous. The whole time, you think you're the one pursuing her. You think you're trying to earn her love. But in truth, you're trying to reclaim the man you were before she started shaping him. Because when an older woman wants control, she doesn't push from the outside. She moves in, quietly, elegantly. And by the time you notice the weight, it feels like your own shadow. But it's not. It's the blueprint of who she wants you to become, and who she's slowly erasing underneath it. And don't expect her to ever admit it. She'll say she wants a strong man, an independent thinker, someone who leads. But every time you lead in a direction she didn't design, there will be friction, subtle but sharp. She'll frame your independence as arrogance, your boundaries as coldness, your silence as immaturity. And if you're not grounded, you'll believe her. You'll start adjusting, not from clarity, but from confusion. That's how control looks when it's refined. Not loud, not aggressive, just persuasive. She redefines strength so that it works in her favor. And unless you've done the inner work, unless you know who you are before she arrives, you'll bend. Not all at once, but over time. Because her influence doesn't feel like domination, it feels like evolution. Until one day you look in the mirror and don't recognize the man staring back. And the worst part? She still calls it love. You see, older women don't fall in love with men. They fall in love with control. Not because they're malicious, but because life has taught them to protect their position. They've been burned, betrayed, ignored. And now, they don't want connection. They want certainty. So they create it. They control the pace, the tone, the emotional rhythm. And you're expected to adapt, to intuit, to respond without being told. If you get it right, you're rewarded. If you get it wrong, you feel it, but never quite understand why. That's not a relationship. That's a training ground. You're not a man in love. You're a man on a leash. And the leash is invisible because it's tied to your self-worth. You begin to measure your value by how she treats you, how often she validates you, how close or far she stands. And once you need her for your balance, she owns you. But not all older women operate this way. That's what makes it so confusing. Because some truly are wise, nurturing, grounded. And that contrast makes the dangerous ones even harder to spot. Because they don't scream toxicity. They speak in maturity, in lessons, in let me help you grow. And before you know it, you've mistaken manipulation for mentorship. That's the genius of dark psychology. It doesn't look dark. It looks evolved. sophisticated, elegant. It's not designed to scare you. It's designed to soothe you, just enough to lower your guard. She doesn't dominate. She influences, doesn't argue. She redirects, doesn't fight. She withdraws. Every move is clean, polished, precise, and you admire it, right up until you realize you've stopped moving freely, that every step now seeks her approval. And by the time you catch it, you're no longer leading the dance. You're just trying not to step out of rhythm. This is why most men never leave, because it doesn't feel toxic. It feels sophisticated, adult, like a mature relationship with depth. But the depth isn't mutual. It's engineered, controlled, designed to keep you in without ever feeling trapped. You convince yourself you've found someone who finally understands you, someone who sees your flaws and still chooses you. But that choice? It's conditional, based on your compliance, your emotional availability, your willingness to stay in line with the silent rules she never speaks. She'll never say, "Change for me." She doesn't have to. You'll offer the change, hoping to keep the connection alive, hoping to keep her from slipping away, not realizing that was the goal all along. Because obsession doesn't require chaos. It just requires uncertainty. And she's mastered the art of keeping you unsure, of her feelings, of your position, of what happens if you stop trying so hard. And that uncertainty, it keeps you loyal. So what do? You don't fight her. You don't try to outplay her. You simply stop needing her. Because the moment you detach from her approval, her rhythm, her emotional rewards, you break the pattern. You return to your center, to your silence, to the grounded presence that made you powerful in the first place. You see, older women who operate from control lose interest the second they can't influence. They don't chase freedom. They chase control over your freedom. And when they can't have it, they vanish. Let them. The stoic man doesn't react. He doesn't retaliate. He observes, learns, adjusts. He keeps his power because he never gives it away for affection disguised as wisdom. So the next time you feel that magnetic pull, ask yourself, is it love or is it leverage? The difference will define your peace. And here's the truth most men aren't ready to hear. Your desire to be understood is what makes you vulnerable. Older women know that. They position themselves as the one who gets you, who sees the depth no one else saw. But sometimes, being understood isn't love. It's leverage. Because the more seen you feel, the more likely you are to open. And once you open, she knows exactly where to push, where to pull, and how to keep you dependent on the connection. That's not intimacy. That's strategy. So what's the antidote? Self-awareness, inner clarity, knowing who you are without needing someone else to reflect it back. Because if you don't anchor your identity, someone else will build it for you and call it love. But the stoic man, he knows better. He stays unreadable, unshaken, not out of fear, but discipline. Because the second a woman sees that she can't move you, she either respects you or leaves. Either way, you win. So remember this, not all power is loud, and not all danger comes with a warning. Sometimes, the most destructive influence enters your life wrapped in elegance, charm, and emotional intelligence. Older women aren't dangerous because of age. They're dangerous because of awareness. They know what works. They've studied men longer than you've studied yourself. And if you're not conscious, not grounded, not anchored, you become the next one shaped, softened, and silently broken. But now you see it. The patterns, the psychology, the influence masked as intimacy. And with awareness comes control. The kind that protects your path, your focus, your fire. You don't need to fear older women. You need to understand the ones who lead with control, not connection. The ones who offer depth without direction. The ones who claim they want strength, but only if it bends for them. Stay sharp, stay anchored, and never confuse mystery with wisdom, unless you're ready to pay the price.